In January, we did my annual 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance program where we looked at one thing you could do each day. Well, we're back with the Compliance Tip of the Day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. In the chaotic world of 2025 and beyond, compliance will become even more important, and you staying on top of your game will help your company move forward. Today, I want to consider some issues around rigor and discipline in your internal controls around cash and cash transfer. I believe it is incumbent to consider not just the internal controls you need, but the rigor of which you maintain your internal controls. One area that companies need to be mindful of is corporate checks and wire transfers in response to falsified or created supporting documentation in this new area of deep fakes. Things such as check requests, purchase orders, or vendor invoices are ripe for fraud, waste, and abuse. A delegation of authority is a critical internal control around these issues. For example, a wire transfer of X amount between a company bank accounts in the United States might require the approval of a financial officer at the initiating location and one officer. However, a wire transfer of the same amount to a company's bank account in Nigeria could require approval by a finance major, a knowledgeable person in the compliance function, and one officer. The key is that the delegation of authority should specify who must give the final approval for such an expense. Petty cash disbursements in locations outside the U.S. have unique control issues. Some petty cash funds outside the U.S. have small balances but substantial throughput of transactions. Your delegation of authority should address replenishment of petty cash funds in countries outside the U.S., as well as approval of expense reports for employees who work outside the U.S., including those who travel to and from the U.S. for work. Another area for concern is travel, the reason being that a company's corporate travel department and independent travel agencies can buy tickets, book hotel rooms for non-employees. Internal controls might be needed to ensure policies are enforced when travel for non-employees can be purchased through a corporate travel department. As was demonstrated by GlaxoSmithKline in their criminal conviction in China, a company must not discount the risk related to the abuse of power internally and collusion with independent travel agencies. You should implement procedures to ensure that your company policies regarding payment of travel and related expenses for third parties for not only visits to manufacturing or job sites, but also any compliance restrictions there might be in place. One question I'm often asked is, when does a company need internal controls regarding gifts, travel, and entertainment in place? My answer is straightforward, that it should be done as soon as possible. And building and maintaining internal controls requires toughness of mind, rigid discipline to properly serve your work. By having the rigor to institute and enforce these types of internal controls I've discussed, you can go a long way towards detecting fraud, waste, and abuse and preventing an FCPA violation. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, you must maintain rigor and discipline around your internal controls. 2, internal controls against fraud can also help prevent corruption. And 3, building, in addition to maintaining good internal controls, will require discipline and the rigor you need to maintain them throughout the life of the controls. I know all of these may be second nature, but it's always good to revisit these, and I would urge you to revisit yours. one of the things that I'm happy to do for you, the compliance profession, is if you have a question or a series of questions you would like some compliance tips on, I'm happy to take any requests that you might want, certainly anonymize them, and give you a quick tip. Either one quick tip or maybe a week's worth of quick tips. So if you have any tips you want about your compliance program, you can shoot me an email at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This podcast was created and produced with the assistance of AI.